everyone, welcome back to News Done Simply. I have been in Africa for the past 2 weeks and I have lots to share. So today I decided to do an African news edition from all the things that I learned while I was there. Firstly, in Tanzania, the government's efforts to protect wildlife were obvious. So I thought I should interview someone. And who better to interview than a guide who knows all about the wildlife there? The guide, Mr. Baraka, had several key points, but it all kept coming back to tourism. Tanzania and other countries like Kenya and Rwanda value their wildlife because tourists come to see it. This grows their own country and connects them with even more nations, which helps them economically in the short term and long term. So, specifically, what is the government doing? To start, national parks were created to preserve animal habitats. No one is allowed to live on the land, even local tribes, to ensure that the animals are safe. On top of that, there are strict rules in place. For example, after 7 p.m., vehicles are no longer allowed to drive around, or else the drivers will lose their working permit. Next, park rangers were hired and paid enough money to avoid corruption. And to go one step further, they were supplied with weapons, surveillance equipment, and vehicles to help identify and locate poachers. So, the big question, has it worked? Our guide, Mr. Baraka, has said that the government has helped increase wildlife numbers, especially for the small rhino and big cat populations. In short, Tanzania has taken steps to help protect their wildlife. Should other countries follow in Tanzania's footsteps? Moving on, I also traveled to Ethiopia, a land rich with culture and delicious food. While I was there, I had heard many local opinions about the Prime Minister. Most supported him, some were not too keen. But one thing almost everyone agreed on. He had made friends with bordering Eritrea after decades of conflicts and fights. It all started when Eritrea split off from Ethiopia, becoming its own nation. From there, the two nations had no diplomatic relations whatsoever. Instead of taking the traditional route of slowly trying to ease up, the Ethiopian Prime Minister secretly traveled to meet the Eritrean president. The two leaders got together without any formal agenda and had discussions. At the end, they resumed diplomatic relations. The two had also struck a deal. Eritrea was to gain from the larger economy of their neighbor. Meanwhile, Ethiopia would have access to the seaports in Eritrea as they have none of their own. This benefits both countries and especially their economy. Learning about this made me wonder, could other conflicting nations do the same thing as Eritrea and Ethiopia to rebuild friendships, such as India and Pakistan? Maybe, maybe not. Thanks for tuning in to News Done Simply.